Here we're going to talk about what Jaafar Jackson can teach every creator. But before we get into this, I want to invite you into something I've been building called the 10K Creators Movement. Here's a space for people who are serious about learning how to build consistent online income through digital products, content creation, and simple monetized systems. It's not about hype or overnight success. It's about building the mindset, structure, and consistency required to actually grow to your first $10,000 a month online. Inside the movement, you'll be invited to the 33-day creator challenge designed to help you build momentum, stay accountable, and start thinking like a creator who earns. There's a one-time £20 admin fee to join, and all the details are in the description. We only have 30 spaces available in this initial phase, and once they're gone, we close it. If you've been waiting for a sign to start building, this is it. Now let's get into today's topic. 7 things creators can learn from Jaafar Jackson after the Michael movie. With the release of the Michael movie, one of the most talked about names is Jaafar Jackson. He stepped into one of the most iconic roles in music history, portraying Michael Jackson, his uncle, a figure whose legacy is known worldwide. Let me just tell you something before we get into this. I am a lifelong Michael Jackson fan. I hold my hands up to this. People are now coming and, showing support for Michael Jackson, but I've been supporting Michael Jackson since the get-go. I want you to know that I'm the OG Michael Jackson fan, and I've been supporting Michael Jackson for many years, throughout everything, throughout all the ups and downs. So that's just a bit of a side note there, a bit of an FYI, you see, so you know that this is, I'm talking about this from a place of love for Michael Jackson, the Jackson family, and Jaafar Jackson is someone that I would say I'd seen him a few times before in the past, knowing that he was Jermaine's son, but I'd never really delved into Jaafar as a person until he just, was picked to play Michael, and that's when I've really started to look at him properly. So yeah, here are 7 lessons every creator should take away. Number 1 is preparation builds confidence. What looks like natural talent is usually deep preparation. Before stepping into such a major role, Jaafar had to study movement, energy, expression, and performance at a very detailed level. So for creators, this translates directly. The confidence you see in successful people is usually built behind the scenes through repetition, practice, and deep preparation. I call this uninterrupted discipline time because I watched a video of a lady on Instagram, I believe her name is Courtney, and she talked about uninterrupted discipline time and how Michael Jackson is a product of that. Any great successful person is a product of that. Deep work, discipline, dedication, deep focus, relentless practice, and self-belief as well. Because if you don't know this, then you know. Do you know that Rich and Tone, the choreographers for the Michael movie, and they worked with Michael as well, and Madonna and a whole bunch of other people, they said that they didn't think that he had what it takes. That's what they said in the beginning. If you watch the behind the scenes, they said that they didn't think he had what it took to be able to play this, to pull this off. They said he didn't have it. So that shows to you that he didn't actually have the natural, innate talent. He could probably move a bit, but he didn't have that je ne sais quoi that was required to play Michael Jackson. He didn't have it. That's what they said. And these are people that have worked with the man himself. So they know, they can tell. But he made a decision. He made a conscious decision. He said, you know what? I am going to do this. I am going to put in the time. I am going to put in the effort. I am going to put practice. And so when you see his performances, yes, there's probably lots of different takes and all of that. But even when you watch the practice, you see it developing over time. And it starts to look effortless. And he does mention that in a few interviews where he wanted it to not look like he was just copying. He wanted it to look effortless. He wanted it to look like he was embodying and it was just normal. Okay. And so this is probably going to be a longer piece. And the reason is because I want to relate this to priming your subconscious mind for success. Repetition is the thing that is going to change and shift everything. Because in the beginning, it feels weird to affirm, I'm a successful creator, I'm making $100,000 a month, I'm making $50,000 a month. It doesn't feel right. It feels like this is not true. Your body doesn't feel connected to it. Your mind doesn't feel connected. Nothing feels connected to it. And as time goes on, as you repeat it, it starts to feel normal. And that is where the magic happens. When it starts to feel normal. But then at the same time, once it does start to feel normal, you need to also level up. Okay, because think about it. If you just stay in that comfortable position, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, this is great. I'm going to just relax in this way. But Michael Jackson and even Jaafar didn't just get comfortable with the fact that, oh, I can do those moves and that's it. Now it's enough. Kept going. Number 2 is respect the process. Jaafar didn't just step into a role casually. He treated it with discipline and respect. And that's something every creator needs. Whether you're making videos, writing posts, or building digital products, the level of respect you give your craft will show in your results. People can feel when something is rushed versus when it's intentional. It's interesting. This is an interesting thing as well, because I have always spoken about how sometimes when you can be, have this overly perfectionist mindset, sometimes it can prevent you from taking that step and putting things out there. I believe there needs to be a balance, because think about, even with the movie, if Jaafar had just he because it wasn't perfect, if he had decided, oh, I'm going to just not do it, he would never have achieved anything, because he wouldn't have been taking those steps. And so the goal is to actually take action and just keep going. And obviously you're leveling up over time. That is the whole point of it. You level up over time. Michael did not begin his journey as a singer and dancer, performer, just being perfect. He actually started off, and as a youngster, and his father telling him, no, do that again. It doesn't sound right. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And so you want to be intentional about what you're building, and understand what your audience wants and what they need and all of that. And you don't want to rush it. Obviously, you don't want to rush it. But you don't want to also just hold back so much that you don't put anything out there in the first place. Okay, number 3 is your opportunity still requires work. Even if you come from a well-known name or have an advantage, this work still has to be done. Jaafar may have connections to a legendary legacy, but that doesn't remove the expectation to deliver. Think about it. He's a Jackson. People would have just said, well, he's got the natural talent anyway. He's got the connections to the Jackson family. So, yeah, he probably didn't have to put in much work. No, you still need to put in the work. Some creators assume that success is about access, but in reality, success is about execution. Number 4, most of the journey happened in private. You see, Jaafar Jackson moved into Havenhurst, which was the Jackson family home. This was somewhere that he also grew up in. His family grew up there. Even the kids, Paris, Blanket, and Prince grew up at Havenhurst as well after the father passed. So it's a home and a place that holds so much history, so much love, so much energy, so much creative energy, and it has the ghosts of the past there. And he moved in there and actually essentially created a boot camp for himself. What the public sees is the outcome, but what they don't see is the preparation phase, the rehearsals, the learning, the adjusting, the repeating. The same applies to content creation. Most of your growth happens before anyone is even watching. People don't. That's why people enjoy watching behind the scenes, because it really shows you what it takes. And it can give you an insight as to whether you want to go down this path in the first place. Setting up tripods, and the tripod breaks, or you don't have the money to buy a new one, so you're taping it up. And there's so many things that go into it. The sleepless nights, the creating something and realizing that it just doesn't look the way you want it to look, and you have to do it again, or you feel like you have to do it again, or it doesn't sound the same. So many things. It doesn't sound right. So you have to do it again, or, most of your growth, it happens when no one is watching at all. And so that's what you need to consider. there's so much behind the scenes that takes place, and you have to really go through all of that. It's not all the glitz and all the glamour and all of that. Even all these celebrities where when you look at them, they look, toned and fit. I know some of them have done the surgery and all of that, but even still, that's part of the journey as well. There's pain involved in that. And they come out looking all glowing and energetic, but you don't even know what's really going on inside because they've had to put in so much work. Number 5 is big opportunities require courage. Stepping into a role associated with one of the greatest performers of all time. I'm gonna backtrack with that, and I'm gonna say the greatest performer of all time. Yeah, you might not agree with me, but I'm gonna say the greatest performer of all time. It's not a small decision. It requires courage, and the same is true for creators. Whether it's posting your first video, launching your first product, or showing up consistently, growth always requires you to be seen before you feel ready. You probably sit there making a video and just think, oh, this is too much, or you don't like the way you look, or it requires courage to put yourself out there, because there are going to be people that are going to leave really bad comments. There are going to be people that are going to try and destroy you, even if you haven't done anything to them. There are going to be people that are going to say, oh, the reason why you're successful is because of this and this. Anyway, number 6 is excellence still gets noticed. In a world full of content, quality, it does stand out. Attention to detail matters as well. Effort matters. Intention matters. Jaafar's role has generated attention, not just because of the name, but because of the execution. Creators who focus on improving quality, even slightly, each time always rise above the noise. I want to tell you this. I want to say this. When we talk about taking action and putting stuff out there, even if it's not perfect, we're not saying that you should never improve. We're not saying that you should just kind of keep going in the same way and never try to level up. So, for example, if you start off and you're making audios or whatever it is, you're using your phone, you're using like a cheap microphone, at some point you need to get a better one. At some point you need to get a better setup. At some point you need to start making things crisper and clearer. Everybody understands that. Well, you should do. If you wanted to go down the path of being a creator, you need to eventually level up. So it's not about saying just do things half-baked. No, you eventually want to start to level up and keep pushing and getting better and better and improving. Number 7 is to build your own path. Even with a powerful legacy connected to Jaafar, Jaafar still has to create his own identity. This is really important. I remember when I first really looked into the whole thing that he was going to be playing Michael, and I was like, wow, he is going to not have his own identity. How is he going to have his own identity if he's just associated with being the person who plays Michael? What I found really good about, I don't know who is behind his whole management and who is kind of directing him and advising him. I don't know if it's coming from himself or if it's coming from someone in the Jackson family that's saying to him, listen, you need your own identity. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, whenever he goes to any kind of interview, he never gets up and starts moonwalking. He never gets up and starts doing all the Michael Jackson moves. He did a very slight Michael move one time at the Jennifer Hudson show in that Spirit Tunnel thing. But you never see him getting up and dancing, and he's not doing all of that. Because he's leaving all of that for the movie and for the practice and for the rehearsals and all of that. I don't know if he signed something to say that he shouldn't be doing all those things, because it's going to, maybe if he gets injured, then it's going to affect him. The small boy, the little boy, the Giuliano, the one that plays Little Michael, my guy is dancing all over the place, but he's young, and as he grows older, he's probably going to, grow out of that identity. But also at the same time, he's a Michael Jackson mini impersonator anyway. And so it doesn't really affect his work in a sense, because he's already known as being a Michael Jackson mini impersonator. So with Jaafar, he wants to build his own legacy as an actor. So he wants to apply those same principles of really grinding himself into the character and connecting with the character and building himself as someone who works really hard to play the role. So he needs to have his own identity. And I think he's doing that, a very good job of that. He still pays homage to MJ in his clothing and stuff. He doesn't dress exactly like him. He'll be wearing something red, which is, paying homage to Michael's, like a red armband, black sometimes with red. the military jacket sometimes, like, but he's not going all in and walking around with a glove and all that kind of stuff. He's doing a simple, a Michael inspired look, which is beautiful, because I actually think he's got to pull it off, being able to separate the two. I think once he's done Michael 2, I don't know if they're going to bring out a third one, but once he's done, I think that will close that chapter. And I don't think he's going to become a Michael tribute act and be doing concerts and being Michael. I think if he does go into music, I would recommend, if I was advising him, to be, to bring out some music, because he's got the talent, and I know people are comparing him to Michael, but personally I feel like his music is different. It doesn't sound the same. He has a very similar voice in terms of his vocal ability and his tone, but he can still build his own identity as an artist, as a musician, and still be an actor at the same time. He can bring out movies and still have an album. Doesn't necessarily have to tour because he has an album. He can just perform, maybe do like a sort of, 2 nights special, Madison Square Garden or something like that, and then do a couple of songs where he pays tribute to Michael, maybe one song, and then maybe do like a Jackson 5 medley, and that's it. Carry on with his own songs. Anyway, what I'm going to say is that, like I said, he needs to have his own identity, and it's one of the most important lessons for any creator. You can learn from others, but you can be inspired by others, but ultimately you have to build something that is yours, your voice, your message, your audience, your direction, and that is what creates long-term success. Here's a final thought for you guys. Jaafar Jackson's journey is a reminder that preparation, discipline, courage, and consistency matter more than anything else. And for creators, the same principles apply whether you're just starting to try or trying to scale. If you're starting or building your own path as a creator, the 10K Creators Movement is open now. You can check out everything in the description. To pay the £20 admin fee, you'll see everything in the description to do that. We currently only have 30 spaces available in this first phase. So if you feel ready to stop watching and start building, this is your moment, because every creator you admire started with one decision, and you can start today. Take care. I'm looking forward to welcoming you into the 10K Creators Movement, and I really hope you enjoyed this piece. Take care.